It was a quiet Sunday morning in Willow Ridge, a sleepy riverside town nestled between forested hills and winding dirt roads. The sunlight shimmered softly over the gently rippling water, painting golden reflections across the bank where children laughed, fishermen cast their lines, and church bells tolled from a distance. Everything about that morning suggested Pisaea's slow, unhurried rhythm that made people forget there was a world beyond their town. But that illusion was shattered before noon. Eli Mercer sat alone on a weathered bench near the riverbank, his posture relaxed, his eyes trained on the water. He wore a faded gray hoodie, the cuffs worn thin, and his boots, caked in dried mud, spoke of a man accustomed to hard work. To anyone watching, Eli looked like someone seeking solitude, perhaps catching his breath from a heavy week or recalling memories best left to the water. But to officers Ryan Holbrook and Derek Shaw, Eli was something else entirely a problem. Their cruiser slowed when they spotted him. Officer Holbrook, older and hardened by years of unchecked authority, narrowed his eyes. "You see that?" he muttered to Shaw, his voice laced with suspicion. Shaw, younger but eager to mirror his partner's posture, leaned forward. "Yeah, doesn't look like he's from around here." No laws were being broken. Eli wasn't disturbing anyone. He wasn't loitering near private property. He was just out sitting. But that didn't matter. The two officers pulled their cruiser sharply to the side, gravel crunching under tires. Doors swung open with force. They didn't approach Eli with questions. They came with judgment. "Hey," Holbrook barked, his voice cracking like a whip. "What are you doing here?" Eli turned his head slowly. "Calm, collected. Sitting," he said. His voice was deep and even, as if he'd been through this before. Holbrook's jaw tensed. "This is private property." "No sign saying that," Eli replied. His gaze never left the river. Shaw moved to flank Eli's other side, hands resting on his belt, one hovering too close to his holster. "You need to leave?" "Now." Eli stood, slow and deliberate. His hands remained visible at his sides. "I'm not causing trouble," he said, tone still calm. "Just getting some air." Holbrook stepped closer. "You've been warned." And then it shifted too fast. Holbrook grabbed Eli's arm, twisting it behind his back. "You're resisting," Shaw shouted. "I'm not," Eli replied, firm but controlled. "I'm standing here." Another hand. Another shove. In a blur, they dragged him toward the riverbank. Eli's boots skidded against the dirt as they pushed him closer to the edge. "Stop," he shouted, his voice now sharp with warning. "You don't want to do this." But they did. Holbrook shoved him hard. The river opened beneath him. The cold hit like a punch. Water swallowed him whole. The current pulled, but Eli didn't panic. His mind kicked into training, honed by years of elite military service. Because Eli Mercer wasn't just any man. He was a Navy SEAL, trained to survive the impossible. His hands were cuffed, but not useless. Below the surface, silence. He didn't fight the current right away. He let it take him just far enough. Then, with a kick of his legs and a twist of his body, he maneuvered. The cuffs bit into his wrists, but he angled his shoulders to reduce drag and used the current to steer toward the opposite bank. From above, the officers stood watching. Holbrook lit a cigarette. Shaw looked away. "That's that," Holbrook muttered. "Let's go." They never saw Eli resurface, yards downstream, lungs burning as he emerged just long enough to breathe. He didn't cry for help. He disappeared into the woods. Hours passed, then a day, then two. The department issued a half-hearted report. Man drowned while resisting arrest. There was no investigation, no press conference, just silence. The town returned to normal, or pretended to. But for the witnesses by the river, those who had recorded snippets of the encounter on shaking cell, phones the truth burned behind their eyes. Eli had vanished. And to the police, that meant victory. But they had made a critical mistake. They didn't kill a stranger. They tried to drown a soldier. In a cabin deep in the forest, Eli worked in darkness. His injuries were minor bruises, a gash above his eyebrow, but the fire in his chest was real. He watched the shaky footage again and again. In it, his head disappeared beneath the water, hands cuffed. The timestamp ticked on. The video ended in screams. He called Marcus Clay, an old SEAL brother turned cybersecurity analyst. "I'm alive," Eli said. Marcus didn't need context. "Where?" Eli gave coordinates. Within hours, Marcus had delivered backup power, food, and most importantly, data. Bodycam footage, dispatch logs, radio recordings. It was all there. Crop timelines, muted audio, evidence that Eli had been attacked without provocation. "They've been doing this for years," Marcus said grimly. "You're not the first." They spent nights connecting dots. Dozens of files. Patterns emerged, mostly black men. Mostly vague claims of resisting. Some disappeared. Some died. All covered up. Eli's rage turned to purpose. They compiled a dossier. Not just on Holbrook and Shaw, but their precinct. Their chief. The mayor who backed them. The prosecutor who declined to charge in every single use of force complaint. "We go public," Marcus said. "But smart. If we do it wrong, they'll bury the story." Eli nodded. "Then we don't give them that chance." He reached out to a local reporter, Naomi Briggs. She had a reputation for courage and a tendency to ruffle feathers. He left a package at her door: photos, video, statements. A burner phone rang 2 hours later. "Who are you?" Naomi asked. "The man they tried to drown," Eli answered. That night, the town exploded. Naomi published her expose. The video went viral. Justice for Eli trended by morning. Protests filled the streets. Darnell Creek was no longer quiet. Holbrook and Shaw were suspended, then arrested. The chief issued a statement filled with platitudes, but no one bought it. Not after the files leaked. Not after whistleblowers stepped forward. But the corruption ran deeper. Eli wasn't finished. He uncovered wire transfers money funneled to city officials from a private prison contractor. Incentives for arrest numbers. Pressure to profile. Even training materials that encouraged aggression over de-escalation. At the center of it all, Victor Ames. Former military. Now head of a security consulting firm with contracts in 5 states. Eli remembered him from years ago: charismatic, calculated, dangerous. "He's the architect," Marcus said. "Then we dismantle the blueprint," Eli replied. They staged it for maximum impact. Eli attended a national law enforcement conference in D.C. Ames was the keynote speaker. Eli waited until the speech ended, then stepped on stage. The crowd gasped. "I was declared dead 3 weeks ago," Eli said into the mic. "But I'm standing here because I survived, and because I refuse to let others be buried under lies." He dropped the files on the podium. Live-streamed. Unedited. Irrefutable. Federal agents arrested Ames on the spot. Months passed. Then a year. Holbrook and Shaw were convicted. The chief was removed. Investigations spread across the state. Dozens of officers were suspended, indicted, or resigned. A statue now stands at the riverbank where Eli nearly died. It shows a man breaking the surface of water, fists unclenched, eyes open. The plaque reads, "Justice doesn't drown." Eli Mercer was never seen again. Some say he left the country. Others say he works in the shadows, rooting out corruption wherever it hides. But in Willow Ridge, his story is told with reverence. Not because he lived, but because he refused to stay silent. And because sometimes one man surviving is enough to shake the world awake.